least got some chill music going on here. Like a little like lo-fi. I feel like we could be in a coffee house. What is this? Well, we have some good news across the country. It looks like home prices are drifting lower, but it may not be in the area that you live. Uh-oh, I have the window open. I should have done that. Whoops. Yeah, so it may not be the drifting in the areas that you were talking about. This week, though, I have a guest, and it was a guest that you guys requested, somebody in the San Antonio area. So we're going to be talking about what his area is doing, because it really kind of is reflective to the whole entire country. You see home prices drifting in some areas, and in some areas they're still like going crazy, and we're seeing bidding wars. So Tim has the tale of two cities, and that's San Antonio, Texas. Tim Macy, welcome to the show. Come on down. And are you going to put him up here, or are you going to just keeping him in the background? Uh-oh.
There I am. All right. Good to be here. Now, when you said I was requested, you mean somebody requested San Antonio, not me personally, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
Yeah. That would be correct. Yes. They said, can you get somebody from San Antonio and tell us what's going on with that market, because of the fact that it is a tale of two cities, and they're wanting to know what the heck's going on, man. Why is it like that?
It's, that's what's fun about real estate for the last couple of years. Something's always going on, and it's never boring. Like, things are always changing. And I got to say, I will give you my take on what I feel like's going on right now and what we're seeing. But my predictions have been notoriously bad.
Oh,
I made
really?
a video. Yeah, I made a video in 2020 saying how I think with, the pandemic and everything, that prices will probably level off. And obviously I was completely wrong. They went through the roof. So love to give you a take on what we're seeing happen right now. But it hasn't been a great 2 years or so, or 3 years, to make predictions about the real estate market.
Everybody's doing this. I have to show you this, because everybody's saying this, and they're talking about my hair. I know that anybody that's listening on the podcast doesn't know, but I cut my hair off at 1 a.m. And I let my natural curl just go. My kids were giving me crap about my hair. They're like, let your natural curl go. And I went, okay. So I cut my hair off at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I did it myself.
I love it.
I did a pretty good job, though. I'm proud of myself. So that's the elephant in the room, but that has nothing to do with real estate.
Yeah, I love the short hair look. I mean, you're rocking it. It looks great.
Yeah. Thanks. So tell me, what areas are starting to see a decline in the San Antonio area? What's happening there?
Yeah. I think over the last couple of years, we've had these pockets of our city where you're looking at it and you're like, there's no way that prices have gone up that much. Like, our client bought a house for $250, and then 2 years later it's selling for almost $400. Like, this is just a little crazy. And we're seeing some of those really overheated markets pull back some. Now, like you said, drifting is such a great way to put it. Like, they're drifting back down a little bit from kind of the crazy appreciation that they saw, but they're not crashing. Like, they're not crashing down. And so we had one that we just put under contract where, there were a couple sales of these newer homes for around $285, $290. We went under contract, I think, around $270. And so it drifted back down to that area where it's not as crazy, but they're definitely not crashing by any means. And then
it's still not affordable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
And then to your other point, though, I mean, the neighborhoods that are always sought after, and the really good school districts with like the really good restaurants nearby, the places that all the buyers want to be, those are still multiple offers. Those are still very competitive. We have seen the as-is houses not, go as quick as they were. I think people are a little more hesitant to go, buy a fixer-upper. Cost of money is higher. Cost of materials is higher. Cost of labor is higher. So I am seeing a little break in those fixer-upper projects. But great house, move-in ready, that's, mid to top of the market, is still moving very quickly.
I have this thing that I've been asking all real estate agents, and it's the fact that in even some of the hottest markets, when you get into that first time home buyer bracket, the very
Yeah.
first home that people are buying, is still extremely difficult for those new buyers that are looking for the lowest homes, decent low homes, those little small 3-bedroom,
Yeah.
2-bath houses. Is it still just as difficult on both sides of San Antonio?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like my family's a good example. We moved up and bought something in 2021. Interest rates were low, and we were like, wow, we can afford a $500,000 house, which I didn't even realize, like those types of well, the monthly payment was
Like,
lower.
yo.
Well, and look, I say this to say that there was a lot of people with the low interest rates, lowered monthly payment so drastically that a 400K buyer was now all of a sudden a 500K buyer. Now that
Right.
400K buyer
It's a
is now
300K.
a 300K buyer,
Mhm.
and what it's doing is it's pushing more buyers down into the lower price points, which, like you said, are those first time home buyer houses. And so as interest rates rise, a starter home for someone is no longer a starter home for first time home buyers. It's starter home for first time home buyers and all the people that can't afford the higher price home because interest rates are higher. And so it's just compressing people into those lower price points.
I just find that the houses that have dropped drastically in price are the most expensive homes. Like in my area, the ones that have seen the biggest price cuts and closing at the biggest price reductions are the houses that were so out of the regular, I would say, middle class price range that I'm like, yeah, sure. The March numbers came out 3% lower on national average. I'm like, how many of those homes were over like $1 million?
Yep,
I bet a lot of them. I bet a
for sure.
lot of them that
Yeah.
caused that issue because people in like the lower income, middle class income are having the hardest time finding a house.
Yeah.
It's just there's still multiple offers coming in, especially with for those first time homes. I mean, like everywhere I know, like everybody, even in the West, when they're like the West is seeing the biggest hit. I'm like, yeah, but how about those first time homes? Oh yeah, well those are still bidding wars. Like, like
Yeah, so it's those higher price points where they were like the luxury homes when interest
mhm.
rates are super low, economy's booming, everything's going great, stocks are going up, people's portfolios are going up, the whole deal. It's like, yeah, they can go grab an $800,000 house when they probably would never be able to afford an $800,000 house, but because of the way things were, they could. Now those people are coming back down to reality, and those higher priced homes are just sitting there without the same demand.
Absolutely. And let's just put the like icing on the cake for the last since the last housing crash that happened in '08, we haven't been building houses. The builders haven't been building houses that
No,
would be
yeah.
those first time home buyers. They're building those $500,000 to $600,000 to $700,000 houses. They're not building those little like 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom houses,
Yeah.
unless it's like a multifamily unit where you have many of them stack up against each other, like a condo association. You're just not seeing those anymore like they used to do them.
And I do think our demand is being kept up, like it's beating supply. I think demand's dropped significantly, but because of the fact that builders haven't built enough of these affordable houses, and because of the fact that so many people that locked in these low interest rates are never going to sell their homes, like the market's being held up by this interesting thing that creates a lack of supply. But if there was
Yep.
normal supply in the market, I think you'd see a bigger decrease in prices.
Yep. Where you see those huge builder discounts like we did in
Yeah,
'08. Yeah. They were like giving them away.
those
They
are
couldn't
coming
wait
in.
to get, they were like, you want a car? We'll give you a car. And I'm not even joking. Like in
Yeah.
Florida, when we lived in Florida at the time, they were like, there was a car out front. It was a little Mini Cooper. They're like, buy a house and we'll give you this Mini Cooper.
I hope we never get there again.
Yeah, no, but they were more reasonable homes. They were
Yeah.
more like those, but they didn't build them this time. They were like, nope, we're gonna go for the high end buyers that are overqualified. You
Yeah.
know, and I don't blame the builders. There's no incentive for the builders to build those type of homes when the land is so expensive. Building materials are so expensive. There just needs to be more I know everybody hates when I say this because they're like, that government doesn't do anything. I'm just saying government incentive, like give them low interest loans, give them at price building materials, give them some kind of subsidies to make them want to build them. Some kind of guarantee, you know?
Yeah. Government to me is like the people who manage the playing field, you know, manage the playing field. So people want to play the game.
Yeah, but how many times is that management getting greased pockets for everybody behind them that doesn't want it?
That's the problem is like the government tries to be the manage the field plus be the umpire plus be the scorekeeper, and then you get all the sideways deals that happen.
Yep. Yeah. So let's talk about this article that came out that was talking about the West being bombarded. I used a new eyebrow pencil and I think it's red. Sorry, everybody. They look like woolly worms on my forehead. Whoa.
The people need to know.
The people need to know my red eyebrows are intentional. Eddie, can you pull up that article, please? Eddie's going to pull that up. He was pulling a question up first. We'll get into you living in Omaha, David.
No, Omaha. I think that's the one that's on everybody's mind. So.
Yep. Western housing market recession hit so hard and fast that a Fortune 500 firm was riding high at $34 per share. It crashed at $1 per share. This is about Opendoor. Now, you read this article. You had some comments you wanted to make about it. This is from Fortune magazine. It says, go down. It says Opendoor are taking huge losses as buying agents. We are all the time testing their pain threshold. When I represent a buyer, and it's a fiduciary duty to represent them the best I can. Chris Davis, a real estate agent in Phoenix, tells Fortune. So when I look at Opendoor house for a client as a buyer's agent, we're coming in low and hard. I can see why. We're getting counter offers and we're having conversations. If they weren't desperate, they wouldn't be having these conversations, or they are getting counter offers. They want these things off. Yeah, but they want these things off their books. Yep. So if you see a listing with Opendoor, hit them hard, get a deal.
Yeah.
We've seen this in a movie before in 2008. Leveraged amateur home flippers across the country that had no choice to sell or go into foreclosure with big losses as home prices began to slide. Only this time around, the correction is regional and it's corporate titan that got stuck holding the bag. I don't feel bad for them. They stole a lot of houses from people. Not too long ago, Opendoor has been riding high, and the San Francisco-based company entered the market with a goal of becoming the leader of the so-called iBuying trend. It works like this. Through an online platform, Opendoor makes speedy offers to buyers who are often selling homes in need of tender loving care. In exchange for a service fee, the company makes the needed repairs and then flips the home back onto the market for a quick buck. Yeah. So you bought one of these. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah, I in the real estate world for realtors, like people Opendoor and Zillow are like, these enemies, right? And I haven't been anti Opendoor, so I've been somewhat positive about Opendoor. But I don't like this idea that citing Opendoor as an example of the market cooling, because that's like, blaming the roads because you had a drunk driver on the road, right? Like they just
well, a lot of these corporations bought up as much as they could,
and they just overpaid for stuff.
Well, they took an algorithm. They just said they took a Zestimate.
Yep.
They said, okay, that's what we're going to offer. We're going to offer $10,000 more. They didn't even look at the house. It was a bad business plan. So but hold up one second, though, because I want to say thank you, Johnny O, for the $100 super chat. Always a regular here. Always every week. He's so kind to me and gives me $100 super chat. Isn't that?
Well, now I feel the pressure. We got to deliver.
I deliver every week. What are you talking about?
Every week. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Johnny. I appreciate it. It. So so these companies did this. They made these ridiculous offers.
Yeah, so I've been on both sides. I've had clients sell homes to Opendoor, and I've had clients buy homes from Opendoor. And I don't know, probably over 10, 15 or so. So we've experienced a lot with Opendoor. And I mean, there was a time at the market where you'd go into, I'd come see Kristina to sell our house, and I'd say, hey, Kristina, right now, if we clean up your house, we'll put in some new carpet, we'll do some paint and everything, and we could probably come out and sell for $350. Right. What I always do, though, Kristina, is that we always go and get offers from the iBuyers just to see where they're at. And sometimes we would get an offer from Open Door and we'd be like, well, this is a no-brainer. Like, they're paying way more for the house than you're going to get on the market, and you don't have to fix it up. Like, go for it. So I think they were buying off. We saw them spend too much when the algorithm didn't pick up like different phases of a neighborhood. So this would be like a 4-phase master plan community, and like phase 1 sells for more than phase 4. My person owns a house in phase 4 and they're paying for it like it's over in phase 1. Or they didn't realize that different floor plans don't sell as much. They were just like looking at the square footage. And so I had this floor plan that I knew had trouble selling for as much, and they're paying full price for it. So they just bought bad. Like, they just spent too much money buying houses. They didn't have the right people
behind them to tell them what these houses are truly worth. They should have been working with a local real estate agent.
Right. They didn't have an agent. Like, we would take pictures. So you take pictures and video, and you tell them everything that's wrong with the house, and we send it on up. Right. And they would just come back with their offer. And yeah, a lot of times it made sense to sell them. And then I watched, kind of like the article reference, like I watched houses that we sold to them, say for $375, come back on the market for $400, painted and everything, and then just sit and slowly but surely sell for less than what we sold it to them for, after they put in work to it, after they'd paid all their fees and everything else. And so they're definitely losing money on a lot of properties, overpaying for them.
I don't feel bad for them. I mean, I really don't. And it's like, I think that this is an opportunity for the average person to go ahead and get a house that should have never been off the market, and they should have been able to purchase in the first place, because they deserve what they got, because they were just scooping up everything. And people that were genuinely like trying to get in on that interest rate, that were genuinely had good credit, wanted to buy that home. And then the company was like, we're just going to offer $30,000 more just to get it. So the fact that they're having to take that hit, I'm like, I just can't shed any tears for them.
And plus, look, a big hedge fund money or whatever, I don't know who was backing them, but like a big separation from the money to the purchase. Right. So anytime you separate the person with the money from the decision being made, you tend to get worse decisions. But my one thing on Open Door is this. The one thing that I did like about them was they were really trying to make things more streamlined for consumers. So I can tell you, our clients that sold properties to Open Door, it was pretty streamlined. It was an easy experience for them. So I think they got a lot of the customers. Did they
tack on some stupid fees? Like, I had that happen here, and it was just like, once everything was like in the title work, it's like, what the hell is this fee? And what's this fee? It was all sorts of crazy crap.
Yeah, but we had dealt with them enough. We knew what they were. And so we were just looking at what the seller was going to walk away with. And for how easy they made the process and how much the seller was walking away with, it was a great decision for a lot of our sellers. If they could figure out how to make that process nice and smooth like that, but just not buy houses for way more than what they were worth, right? And maybe be semi-profitable, then maybe they could do something. But yeah, they totally missed. I do not think any of the companies doing it right now will be around in 5 years, to answer David's question. But I do think there's something there, because some people do just want to sell their house easy and not deal with, putting their house on the market.
Do you think this is what's caused a lot of the 3% decline in prices is because of these iBuyers, or do you think it's like multi-layered reasons?
I mean, I think that this definitely contributes because they bought at such scale. I mean, I don't know how many houses they bought, but they bought a lot of houses that they're now reducing the price on. But I think their story is probably the story of a lot of sellers that think their house is worth more than it is, right? And so they're coming out with this big, ambitious goal of what they're going to sell their house for, and the market's just not there. And so it's like, I don't think the market went up and it's dropping a little bit to where it needs to be. I think people just listed their houses too high. I
think some areas were inflated too high anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, sure. Jeremy Knight, we know, good friend of ours, is in the Austin area.
Austin, yeah.
Those homes over there are stupid expensive. Like, honest to God, there's like, you look at some of them and they're like, yeah, this is $550,000. You're like, It's laughable, you know?
Yeah.
And Austin used to be an affordable city to move to, and now it's no longer affordable. Even with the price drops they've seen, it's still
Yeah.
not affordable. And they have record homelessness numbers because some of these people that were in affordable housing options, they were bought out by corporate investors. They raised the rent so much, and they had nowhere to go because you can't get on like the federal, Section 8 type thing. That takes months, even years to get on.
Yeah.
So now they have like record homelessness problem. That area exploded. It needs a correction, in my opinion.
And I don't know. I'm just speaking from like anecdotal observation here, but I do think that Texas has an interesting issue in that we used to be the sought after place because we got no income tax,
Great.
right? Low cost of living, great
Correct.
economy, lots of jobs.
Good roads.
Right? What was that?
Good roads. Your roads are way better than Louisiana. If you ever
good roads.
Drive on and, knock your fillings out. Go
but
ahead. And
we don't have income tax, so we have high property tax, which didn't really matter because I bought my first house here for $110,000.
Right.
It was a starter home that was a nice little 3.2. It was like 8 years old. Great.
Right.
But as the property values have increased so much, the property tax increases so much. And I don't know what our cost of living is compared to everybody else, but I don't think it's near what it used to be as far as being attractive because it's cheap to live here. It's not really cheap to live here anymore because our property taxes are so high.
Do you think that some people will be losing their homes because the increase in value happened so quickly? Like like someone in your neighborhood that was living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Like if they bought their house for 110, 5 years ago, how much is that house now?
Yeah. So we do have the Homestead exemption where people can lock in and get a smaller increase on their home every year, maxes out what the percentage property tax can increase. But property insurance has gone up a lot. And so not just tax increases, homeowners insurance is going up. So yeah, I mean,
Mine went up $800.
Yeah.
I thought it was $800 from last year.
That's been tough. So I do think we may, I just think the low interest rates, if people got in a low interest rate, it's going to make it hard to make sense for them to leave because they're going to have to significantly downgrade to get that same mortgage payment in a different property.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that people they're like, well, why didn't you buy? And then they're like, you should have just, you've been renting all this time. But, just because your payment's at $500 and something now doesn't mean after your property taxes and your insurance go up, they do go up. Your payment isn't locked in there forever. So you have to weigh all that stuff out.
Yeah. Taxes and insurance, not just principal and interest.
So David, that's your question. We answered it. It's the iBuyer program. I think it's going to look different. I think they'll rebrand it into something else, the seller's little helper kind of thing. They'll do a rebranding and make it sound more sexy.
I just think all the current iBuying companies are going to be bankrupt. I don't think they'll be around.
You think so?
I mean, just about every big iBuyer that I know is getting killed right now. And so I don't, if an iBuyer can make it through the next 4 years, then I think there'll be a demand for it 5 years from now. But yeah,
we'll see. I think the whole thing's going to look different. I think we're all going to be robots, like real estate agents going to be robots. They tested that.
Dude, the AI assistants, become the AI agents.
Yep. You had to go into the door. You had a secret code you had to enter in to get in it. You could go tour the house. Yeah. They tried it and people kept messing with the robots and knocking them over. Only in vacant homes too, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, we got another question from David. Do you think about the fees changing effective May 1st for buyers with higher credit scores? What do you think about the fees changes for people with higher credit scores? This is the Biden thing. Yep. Home buyers with good credit pay higher mortgage rates. We were just talking about this. As the part of the Federal Housing Finance Agency's push for affordable housing, home buyers with good credit will soon have to pay higher mortgage rates and fees to subsidize people with riskier credit ratings, according to the report of the Washington Times. Stupid idea. A new federal rule enforced by the Biden administration will make it so that people looking to buy a home with a credit score of 680 or higher will have to pay $40 more a month to help subsidize more people with worse credit to take out a home. Why are people, let me just ask this. We can freaking send money to any country across the across the world, across the world. We send money like you get cash, you get cash, you get cash. We'll buy another bomber and we'll, do another rocket in the moon. But God forbid we help people that have credit issues. No, we're going to stick that to the people that have good credit and make them pay for it. That makes no sense to me. All right, Eddie, scroll down a little bit. The new rule goes in effect May 1st, will affect mortgages from private banks across the nation, according to the Washington Times. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac federally backed home mortgages will establish their loan level price adjustments. Okay, so this is only for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loans. This is not for your FHA or your rural development loans. But your Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac usually end up being your better loan packages as far as mortgage rates, just FYI. The mortgage industry professionals told the New York Post that the new rule is an ugly surprise for home buyers. That's an understatement. Who worked years to build their credit. One mortgage loan originator told the New York Post that is going to be a hard conversation, having to say it's going to be a challenge to try to explain to somebody that says, I've worked my whole life to get a high credit and I have put a lot of money down. So you're telling me that's negative now? And they're right. And they're freaking right. This is a stupid policy. David Stevens of the Federal Housing Commission said for the Obama administration told the New York Post, the rule is unprecedented. And I am so tired of being in unprecedented times. If we could just go back to boring, normal stuff, I'm so over.
This is what we were talking about early, though. I mean, it's an interesting couple of years to be in real estate because there is always something new.
Yeah. Well, let me know in the comments section. What do you think do you think this is a great idea by the good old Biden administration to punish people for having good credit so that people that have bad credit can get a little extra helping hand? Now, I'm all for helping people out, but I don't think you should punish them for doing good. Like, that makes no sense to me.
I will say, though, this is on one. I mean, the fact that this stuff is so complicated to explain to me is a problem in and of itself, right? But these are loan level price adjustments, which I'm not a lender. But the way I understand it is that these are, like the different fees on a loan. And so these fees get tweaked here and there. But from what I understand, they've just lowered those fees on the lower credit, increased the fees on the higher credit scores, higher down payment. And so it's not like a direct thing. I think some of the memes were just trying to get a little bit of outrage. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, all right, let me make sure the headlines aren't just trying to get the outrage. But when I actually dug in, I mean, yeah, it
is what it says it is.
It doesn't make sense. Like,
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you're going to increase fees on higher credit scores and better borrowers in the eyes of the lender isn't a good thing, but it still doesn't help you to have a lower credit score. You still will have a higher interest rate.
Supported this idea. I mean,
I just don't want anybody to go start like running up a credit card to get a lower credit score, thinking they're going to get a better deal, because you're not. Like, you still should have a good credit score. You'll still get a better deal.
You're going to pay less in interest,
I don't think you may want to get a lender on here. It won't increase your look. If I'm a lender, I give a better interest rate to someone who has a better credit score.
That's what I'm saying. Like, just because you don't take it, just because you're going to save $40, you think, because you're going to pay more with the interest rate.
Yeah. So now what it's saying is I don't get as good of a deal because I have a better credit score. So they're not giving me as good of a deal because I have a better credit score. And so, I still don't think it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense to go get a bad credit score thinking you're going to get a lower rate, because that's not going to happen.
People are going to be so pissed off, though. This too shall change. Anytime that they've done any kind of kooky stuff with loans and like this kind of thing, 9 months later, all of a sudden it's off the books. Like, whoopsie, just kidding about that. If you already have a loan, just go ahead and talk to your loan provider and we'll take that fee off.
And Kristina, you've been talking about it, right? When everybody wants to talk about the market crash, it's like, hey, look, this isn't 2008. Okay. We're not just making it easy for anybody to get a loan. But now when you start saying things like, we are going to make it easier for people with bad credit to get a loan than higher credit, higher down payment. That's when like up starts to become down and down starts to become up, and things don't make sense. So I do hope they
I feel
stop
like
this.
nothing makes sense anymore. But
Yeah.
let's just talk about the real estate market in a whole. Like things that are happening across the country. I'm like, how is this reality? When did I jump timelines? Because
Yeah.
reasonable people are no longer reasonable. And some of the stuff that comes out of politicians about them, like they said that with their whole chest and like full conviction. Like I'm just blown away, especially when it comes to affordable housing. Holy cow, they're heart. Some of them are just flat out heartless. They just do not care. They just do not care. They're like, oh, you should have clipped coupons. Somebody wrote that in my comment section. You know, these people, they're getting thrown out of these parks if they just stop living beyond their means and clip coupons. I'm like, a $600 increase a month on a rent payment, $600 more on a rent payment for a lot on a manufactured home. These people are low income anyways. And you're telling me if they clip enough coupons, they're just going to have $600 just magically show up in their box? Give me a break.
You're not going to like stop getting Starbucks on your way to being a millionaire.
That's what they wrote.
Yeah,
that's what they wrote. Yeah, so I wrote back. I'm like, you know what? Since you have so much experience with this, why don't you go ahead and start making content about it? Because most people are not educated in your vast knowledge of clipping coupons to save $600. So why don't you make content about that?
Yeah.
Crickets, nothing, you know. Like, well, I say blah, blah, blah. We'll show people how you did that.
Well, I do think, one, you've got an amazing comment section, an amazing
I have the best audience in the world.
Yeah, you got the best crew watching. And I think like people are bringing up, hey, why don't you put the tax over here? Why don't you put the tax over there? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? I don't think redistribution of funds from purchasers for people with low credit specifically like is going to help. For me personally, like I believe we need to put things in place where people become better borrowers, you know, and put things in place where they can be in a place where like the low down payment or no down payment stuff, like that's not necessarily a good thing. Like people should have a down payment. People should have reserves to be able to dive into home ownership.
In the game. That's
and I haven't seen taxes and fees and trying to use the money to help people that need it. Like I just haven't seen it work well, but I would love to see some examples maybe.
Byron has a question. Byron has a question. He says, is the rise in prices in single family and multifamily properties due to Tesla building their factory in Austin, Texas? Some aspect of it, but not.
Yeah, I would say it's a data point that probably drives prices in certain areas. So like, you know, Jeremy up in Austin, that I'm pretty sure they've seen stuff near the Gigafactory, you know, because that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, east of Austin, and all of a sudden stuff out there is going up in value. I think it's a factor, but I don't think it's like a market wide driver by any means.
Well, Elon Musk has felt it in his heart. He feels so bad there isn't any affordable housing near his factories, and that his employees are having such a hard time. He's going to create an affordable housing community that they can use, you know, his personal mortgage company that he's going to set them up with. He's going to make affordable houses instead of let's forget the fact that, you know, let's not pay them a living wage. I'm just going to go ahead and give them these cheap little houses that I built with my mortgage company. So I get more skin in the game and make more money.
The builder on that.
Huh?
Yeah.
Lennar, they're in talks with Lennar to be the builder for that.
Yeah.
How's the reputation of Lennar in Texas?
As an agent, I
can't disclose that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to touch that, but I can say a Google search on Lennar as a builder, I think would answer most of your questions.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe Eddie can do that.
There was actually a video on YouTube of a guy like Lennar calling the cops on him because he was doing a YouTube video or something of one of the builds. I think it's pretty interesting. I
see people on TikTok all the time.
Oh yeah.
With several of the builders, they're like, look at this. And the framing of the house on two sides, there was a gap from the slab to the wall this wide. Like you could stick your hand up through the bottom of the house past the wrap.
I don't know if it's just the more I'm in the business, the more I see and the better I get at seeing things. But I gotta say, over the last year or two, I've seen the quality of new construction Yeah, go down. And I've talked to the construction managers and stuff. They've said a lot about having trouble finding quality labor to keep up
Yes,
with all the stuff, and so they're hiring crews that maybe they wouldn't have hired a couple years ago.
correct.
But I would say, like, across builders, I've seen I mean, there's more certain builders with more problems than others, but across builders, we've seen a lot of that, and it's not great.
Yep. Eddie, that we had this earlier. You
Oh
pulled
yeah.
this was the same thing. He grabbed the wrong tab. He's gonna get the other tab.
All right, I like it.
Yeah,
I
but
like it.
yeah.
What else
So
we got in the comment section?
no, we got all sorts of stuff. There's 276 people watching.
That's amazing.
Yep. All right, Lennar Homes. They
Oh.
have a 1-star review. According.
Again, I didn't say it. You know.
Oh wow, this is all over the place. Georgia, Oregon, and they're verified reviewers.
Yep.
So if you ever want to take a look at that, Texas, Florida, wow, Florida.
Yeah, I think
Florida.
digging into builder reviews is very important if you're looking at a new construction home. My one asterisk I will put on this, though, is to know that most people that leave reviews are people that had a problem. People that like move into their Lennar home and don't have a problem rarely go rate them a 5-star. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that is like the thing that people go leave bad reviews on if they had a bad experience, but it's hard to know.
I write good reviews.
What's that?
I generally, like, if I've had an amazing experience, that's the first thing I do. I'm like, I'm going to get on Google and write a review. I do it all the time. But if anything happens during that period of time that their service goes down to poop, I'm the first one to say, I need to edit my review here because it was good, but no longer.
But I usually only want to leave a review if it's a 5-star or 1-star. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm like,
if they make me so mad. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Same.
But the big thing is, no matter what builder you use, is to get, I don't know if it's like this in every state, but in Texas is to get a 3-phase inspection, like get your own third-party inspector that inspects throughout, like they inspect before the slab's poured, they inspect when the framing and electrical is up, and they inspect the final product. And I can't say this is true, but I have a feeling when the builder knows that this house has a buyer that has an inspector that's going to be doing the 3-phase inspection, I feel like they pay more attention to it because they know they're going to have to redo this stuff if they mess it up.
Thomas Morrison said, how many of your clients are willing to buy a condo as a starter home instead of insisting on buying a single family home? This was an issue in Florida years ago. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, here we don't have as many condos as you do in Florida. And so there's not as many of them. And for a lot of them here, when you take that condo monthly fee and everything else, it's not that much different than a single family home. So like if it's someone who doesn't want to deal with the maintenance of a single family home and that monthly condo fee is worth it to them, like you may see them go into a condo. But for most people, the price difference is not that much.
That's exactly what happened in Florida when we were looking for our first homes.
Yeah.
It was like, maybe we should just get a townhome or something like that. And then once we found out how much they increased it every single year, I'm like, well, this is stupid. Like we can mow a lawn. We'll just get a 0 lot line house. And that's exactly what we did. Like, you could take a weed eater to the front and the back, done. You know? Somebody asked me, Eddie, before you put this question up, I want to answer this one real quick. It was from Peter. I'm going to throw it up. Not like vomit, but like put it up on the screen. Okay, here it is. He said, a question about meet Kevin's Boxable fraud accusations. So I don't know if you've ever saw my video, Tim, about the Boxable houses. They're the folding...
I've been following Boxable a little bit.
Yeah, so they're the folding modular homes. He's saying that not everything that they've kind of been a little not forthcoming. Like you can see all the things that are with the company, but they don't really necessarily like advertise it. And people have been on the wait list for eons now. And he's saying that not everything they're saying it sounds a little bit like too good to be true kind of situation. I've just kept maintaining it's a great product from what I've seen, but until I have somebody have it in their backyard for not a week, but months, then, let's have a conversation. I haven't done anything with them in over a year because nobody has it in their backyard. The last time I went there, I'm like, do you have somebody that I can interview to talk about their Boxable? Well, no, we don't have anybody yet. I don't know anybody that owns one. I mean, other than Elon Musk, and they have all these ones stacked up in the back there that looks like they're driving down the road to somewhere, but I have not to have seen one person. And there's even a Facebook group full of people just waiting. They can't wait. And they're always asking for more investments. Why do they need to keep getting people to invest more money when they're not even delivering on the product yet? It's like, it feels a little like, what is that? Like a little new skin, a little,
There's an Apple TV show called Hello Tomorrow. Where the guy's selling timeshares on the moon.
It feels a little timeshare on the moon.
He doesn't have them. And the whole story is like, he just keeps taking people's money for a product like he can't deliver. And I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's like,
I think like that.
I think a lot of these companies, like, they have to hype up the product so much so they can get the money to actually deliver on the promise. And it's tough.
When I met them, they had such a good idea. I think they grew so fast. It's kind of like they didn't even know how to, like the train was running down the track so incredibly fast. They couldn't slow it down. And now they're in so over their head, they can't reel it back. That's how I feel. I don't know.
That's what it seems like, right? But we're not in it, but that's what it feels like. And I got to say, in most of these situations, your gut feeling is usually not too far off.
Yeah. Hello, Smallhorn. People always call me by my last name. This is so funny. Hello, Smallhorn. What is the best strategy to build credit for homes for someone who just migrated to these states? Journal approach. Thank you very much. And content was watching your channel all day. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoy it. So what would you say to somebody that was migrating to the United States? What would be a good way to start building up your credit?
Yeah. So one thing that I've learned in my last, I guess it's been 8 years now in business, is that I love to, I know it's weird. I feel like I was just in the military and now, oh my goodness, the size of that coffee cup.
I like big mugs and I cannot lie.
You are distracting me. Anyways, one thing I've learned is to skip as many steps as possible to get the right answer, and make sure you ask the person that has the right answer. And I don't have the right answer for international people building credit, but I would say, like, try to go find that expert in it. Don't get sold on someone who says they're an expert in it, because I'm sure there are some great tactics out there to do it, but I'm sure they're very niche and specific though.
The first simple thing you can do though is get a checking account. The first thing, get a checking account and start building your credit within your local bank itself. And then all of a sudden the pieces start falling in on itself. People will start offering you credit and everything. That's where I'd start. Start with your local bank and start building your credit with your bank.
And then, there's no secret to income, which is like, just go out there and make as much consistent money as you can in the same job, to show consistent income in an occupation. And, it's usually around the 2-year mark that lenders will start to look at you better. A lot of people get caught up on credit. Like, credit is definitely a piece of the puzzle, but at the end of the day, proving solid income for 2 years, I believe, is what really matters to a lender.
I have this tinfoil hat theory that big corporations, the powers that be, they, when we refer to they, are trying to encourage younger people to not own, so they can buy up as much of the housing so they can rent it to them for the rest of their lives. Can
I rant for like 30 seconds?
Let me finish that thought though.
Do it up. Sorry.
I believe that. I truly believe it. That's my tinfoil hat thing. And now they are allowing that your rent payments go towards your credit score. So I'm like, that's just another thing right there. Another reason why they're trying to get people to be renters for the rest of their lives. But go ahead, now rant.
Yeah, look, I love giving Gen Z, right? That's the gen. Like, I love giving Gen Z a hard time. I just watched the boxing match last night, and like the Ryan Garcia YouTube star went down with a body shot, didn't get up, like totally wussed out. Guys 20 years ago would have went out on their shield. Soft generation. Like, that's the whole mantra of Gen Z. But let me tell you, they are at the biggest disadvantage of anybody else. They get the hardest time when it comes to buying houses. Like if you put this into perspective, say they were born in 2000, right? They were not ready to buy a house in 2018, not ready to buy a house in 2019 or 2020 or 21 or 22. Say they're super ambitious 23-year-olds. They've got the highest real estate values and these higher interest rates. Like their mortgage payment as a percentage of their income is probably higher than it's ever been in history. And
It's
so
over
Gen Z, I
42%.
think,
It's over
what's that?
42%. It's over 42% of their income.
Yeah, so I think like we've put Gen Z at such a massive disadvantage when it comes to home ownership. So I feel for Gen Z big time, young people trying to be proactive and become homeowners. I think we give them a hard time, but I think they have the hardest time right now. And I didn't actually say like I was meaning that stuff. I meant like me speaking as the typical person who talks bad about Gen Z. I
love
think
Gen Z.
yeah,
Honestly,
I think they're gonna solve a lot of the problems that our generation has not been able to solve.
Well, I'm older than you. I'm Gen X, so you're a millennial. So
Yeah,
we're the take back and kick it, take
like,
it in the gut kind of people.
yeah. I mean, but Gen X and millennials, I think, probably did really well in real estate over the last couple of years, and
We did.
and it's been at their expense though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boomers, Gen X, and some millennials.
Yep.
Some millennials, not all millennials, depending on where you live.
Yeah.
Got in okay, especially with those last interest rates. Like if you bought at like the beginning of the pandemic, man, you hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
What is an iBuyer program all about? This is my first time hearing this. We talked about that at the beginning. It's just basically where corporations were going to people trying to sell their homes and saying, hey, look, we see on Zillow your house is worth $450,000. We know the market's going up. We're going to offer $475 sight unseen. Just sign right here and you're done. And that's what they did. And then they go in the house and they found out it needed a lot of work. And then they had to put like $60,000 worth into it. Then they go to put it back on the market. And they're like, oh, we're going to put it on the market for $525. And then they end up selling it for $425.
Yeah.
And I feel absolutely no remorse for them. Not
at
even
all.
a speck of remorse. I can't, I don't have it in me. I just don't care.
Same
Can
page.
you actually get a loan on a mortgage with a 680 credit score?
Of course.
Yeah. Yep. You sure can.
Again, it's more income than credit. Like you gotta show the income to afford the house.
Yeah. You gotta show, and you gotta show credit history too. Like
yeah.
Like
I've got people that call me
and you only got a couple years of history on you. You can get
and it's like I have clients that call me with great credit, and he's been running his barbershop business for however many years and claiming like 20 grand a year on income, so it's like you have to show income, which sometimes means paying taxes to the IRS, but that's
I just saw a comment come in from Facebook. I have a Facebook business page. I didn't know anybody watched it. So Mary, thank you so much for commenting on the Facebook business page. Thank you so much. She said, biggest bonehead idea. Government keeps punishing people for working hard and getting ahead. I know there's a bonehead idea among many.
Why don't we like incentivize people to do better? That's what, giving lower interest rates.
Incentivize sellers to sell their home. If you have a home that's under 1,400 square feet, you live in an area that, you can incentivize the sellers to sell to another first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
How about that? That seems genius. But I don't make the rules. Nobody asks me because this shit would look so, excuse my French, this would look so much different if I was in charge.
I think I'm not a lender. But I can answer this question on why a lender would ask you to remove your LLC. Lenders want people on the loan and on the house that they can go after if they don't pay. And so you need to have a very established LLC with, years of income and all this other stuff for them to allow you to have that LLC be on the loan or on the house. So the lender wants you on the loan, right? They don't want your LLC on there. And so most lenders want that personal guarantee, not an entity.
And that depends on the state. Two.
Okay.
That will depend on where you live, because here in our area, we have a few banks that are just local to this specific
Yeah.
area. And if you started an LLC and your personal credit is really well, established, you can you can do that. You can do everything. Now here in Louisiana, you cannot do a HELOC on a rental property.
Interesting.
You cannot do that.
Yeah, we've got a funny one. I don't know. We've got couple funny ones on cash out, refis, and stuff. But I mean, like our business, we've been pouring into it for years, and so we've established credit. We've established a credit history with it, so we can go get lending. But I know for the first couple of years, like no bank was going to lend to my little LLC that I had on my business card that didn't make enough money.
They should have asked me. I would have said you were fine.
I know,
If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Eddie will go ahead and put them up on the screen. The whole thing is with all these headlines for the last 2 years, I've been saying the market's going to crash, market's going to crash, market's going to crash. They're looking for some kind of evidence to where, that it is crashing. It's not. And that's the problem. And it has been the problem since the beginning of the pandemic, even before the pandemic to now, is the supply. We just don't have enough supplies of houses. If you look at the graph, if you look, like anybody pulls up the graph of the amount of homes that have been built in the United States over since the previous pandemic, previous crash. It's like this. They went straight down. They have not been building enough homes. Their solution, though, and this is another thing that says that they're trying to make us a renter's nation. Their solution to the affordability crisis is to send it to the private sector with incentives to build more condos, townhomes, and multifamily units.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think that the more people can have bad credit scores, so we can reward bad credit scores, the more that you can keep people renting, the more you can keep people not moving forward, the easier it is to,
puppeteer them. Control. Control. It's puppeteering.
I will say though, Kristina, you brought up something which was, we're bringing up the market. When I started the show saying I'm awful with predictions, but I'll make one. I do think that our market is definitely propped up by a lack of supply, right? So even though demand's dropped, it's still enough where it's not really that close to, going under supply and leading to this big price drop. If there is some major thing that happens in the economy that does really hurt jobs and it makes people sell, like that's the thing. Like buyer demand has dropped. Interest rates have definitely slowed down demand. But until something really crashes supply, we'll see home prices steady, maybe drop a little bit, maybe go up a little bit. But that's the thing. If you hear in the news that something happens and a bunch of people are going to be out of jobs, that's when I would get worried about prices going down.
And I've said that for over a year. The biggest thing that's going to cause the housing market to drop significantly is if there's a big crash in unemployment. There would have to be, the unemployment numbers have never been truly given to us correctly in over 15 years. Like they have manipulated they can literally make that look like anything they want to now. So it's like, we never really know, but you can see how many people are getting laid off in your local area. You can feel it. It's palpable, So Gear Runner is one of my first subscribers to my channel.
Oh, that's awesome.
So Gear Runner says, the housing market is still unaffordable. Here 4 years ago, the average price was around $200,000. Now now it's 1,500 square foot is $350,000 on average. That is the same here in Louisiana.
Yep.
Same here. Average house was before the pandemic was around 200,000. You could still get a nice house, maybe, some lipstick on a pig kind of house at 180,
and I found people Zillow scrolling, like their tastes have not gone down. And so they still want that same house. It's just a larger portion of their income. So mortgage payments are just a much larger percentage of people's income.
Well, the other naysayers are like, well, it's because young people just won't bring down what their expectations are. If they just bring down their expectations, then they would be able to find a house they can afford. I'm like, okay, it's the difference between living in a shack and the
Yeah.
difference of living in a house that actually has walls and doors and you don't have to drywall it. Like like what you're saying, like some people can't wrap their mind around the fact that you can't find a house for 200,000 here. It's
Yeah.
like impossible.
Yeah.
They can't wrap their brain around it. And they'll say, well, I saw one. I'm like, you want to take a look at it? Come on.
And look,
Take a look at it. Oh, what? It has no drywall. Oh, you have to put all new wiring in there. Oh, look, there's no central heat. Look at that. Look at
yeah.
that.
It sounds like the TikTok thing. Wow,
Yeah.
look at that.
Look at that.
No, I mean the former military cheapo side of me is like I would buy a shack and live in it on my way to building equity and wealth and all that other fun stuff. But I mean, if you have a family, right? Like if you have a kid or two and you have your spouse and like, no, you're not gonna lower your expectations to that. Like you need to find a more reasonable living situation. So I love the rough it idea and save your money and lower your expectations. Like that's great, but you got to be realistic and you can't be condescending either. Like nobody takes your messaging when you say it in a condescending manner.
Well, I made this point last week and I'll make it again. When my husband and I bought our first house, I was a hairdresser.
Yeah.
Like I was not making massive amounts of money. I was a hairdresser and my husband was in sales for Sprint at the time. We were just as boring income as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, we were not breaking the bank. People in that same situation, in my situation that I was in my husband's situation, when we were starting our family, they could not buy a house, my house, the house that I first moved into, with the same type of jobs that we had. It's impossible. You can't find anything around there for that amount of money. I mean, like it's just not balancing out.
No, that's a great example because our first house is the same story and the neighborhood hasn't really gotten any nicer since we left. And you're right. I mean, I was mowing lawns fresh out of the military. My wife was a pharmacy tech. There's no way anybody in our situation is affording the house that we bought as our first house. Just not feasible.
It's so crazy because we bought our first house for like 135,000 when we sold it for over 250,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we couldn't when we sold that house, I'm like, we couldn't afford that. We couldn't afford the house.
No way.
Like we couldn't afford the house that we just sold.
But I will say, like, if people in the similar situations are listening, I like you said, unless something happens in the economy and everything else, like prices, I don't think are going to go down. And I mean, it's not the best time to get in the game to buy a house, but I mean, it's just like the stock market. Like you win by time in the market, not timing the market. And so, it's a tough time to get in. I feel for people. It's a tougher time to get in for your first home, but I don't think like waiting 3 years is going to be a better time.
Yeah. Well, we have a question. Angie's All Things Beautiful says, question, how long does it take for a mobile home to be added to the land once the survey and the appraisal happens and my loan closes on the FHA? That is with the courthouse. So it depends on how long it takes for the courthouse to process your survey. The recording time could take whatever they like here in Louisiana. Like when they go to record a house, they'll say it's recorded, but you don't actually see it for months and months and months down the road. You're just going to have to keep checking with your courthouse to see if it's been recorded. It's a recording issue. And that's local. Like, I mean, different times for everybody. All right. We got another one. Question. No builder wants to build houses here in the South that are hurricane proof at any price. I bet there's a market for such homes. As as insurance rates continue to go up, that we're going to hit a point where like we're at an impasse in Florida. Like you cannot it's like almost impossible to get insurance. So you have to get the state homeowners insurance. If builders were smart, if there were some really smart builders, they would make these so they could be insured in Florida. An insurance company would feel positive about insuring a house in that area. There are hurricane proof homes. They're not aesthetically pleasing. And that's what builders are afraid of. They look so different than the traditional home. They're afraid that they're going to be taking too much of a risk by building these type of homes because they're like dome homes. I think they're cute. And I think if you made a whole, like, let's just say a 3-street neighborhood of different types of little domes that were all painted differently, maybe not too entirely big, maybe like a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, make them affordable and hurricane proof, you would have yourself something that would sell very quickly. What is your opinion about that, Tim?
Well,
Tim.
Kristina,
Tim.
I like your take on it because I think this is more your arena than mine. But this seems like a very good opportunity for the 3D printer homes because they use like a concrete kind of mix to do all the walls. Aren't those more sturdy than a like wooden frame house?
All right. So the 3D printed homes are a good concept. The thing is the machine itself is very expensive.
Yeah.
Not only that, it has to maintain a levelness the whole entire pour.
Yep.
At any time, wind can kick up and
Okay.
kick all sorts of stuff into that cement pour.
Yeah, that mix.
At any time something could knock over the pour, they have to stop, rearrange the whole entire thing. You also have to have very expensive engineers that are monitoring the actual pour and engineers that are monitoring the machine. It's not ready yet. And nobody knows what's in that concrete mixture, right?
Is it like a patented thing that they don't want to tell
everybody
anybody?
has their own secret sauce, their own secret mix. They're not going to let you know. So who knows? Not only that, if you have an electrical problem in your house at any time, the walls are poured like this.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to like cut out a piece of your wall and then you're going to have to repair it. And that's not going to look like the tube of toothpaste lining up. You know what I'm saying?
I think they got to figure out a way to make it prettier. I don't disagree there. But in essence, though, it is like a concrete home, right? I mean, storm proofing this should be, I would think, be pretty good.
The monolithic, there are better ways to do monolithic homes without doing 3D printing. You can do SIPs construction, and those are monolithic.
Yeah, and then like the storage container thing doesn't. I don't know.
They're not. You can't. I talked to somebody. They're more expensive to
price per square foot.
By the time you get it up to code where it can resist weather conditions and everything else, you could have just bought a brand new house with high upgrades. You know, I've visited several, and I'm like, how much did you spend? Well, I spent $6,000 for the
They're not
container.
Any cheaper.
Right. I paid the $6,000 for the container, and then it was $135,000. $135,000 to get this little room together. That's a lot of money. I don't know. They're not. I think they're a great idea. They just haven't.
Yeah, between the storage container thing and 3D printed houses, like I think there's something there in the future, but not right now.
Yep.
And then the 3D printer thing, like you have to have a whole neighborhood at once for it to really make sense. Like it doesn't make sense to load that machine in to build one house. It's like buy the big piece of land, build 40 of them, and then maybe it makes a bunch of sense.
Yeah. Adrienne has a question. I have a friend that is currently in the process of purchasing a home. She was told that she would have to let her credit score drop so she wouldn't be impacted by the new law May 1st.
See, this is where I would talk to a lender, and maybe more than one, because again,
you don't want your credit score to drop because underwriting is watching this. So if you're like all of a sudden it drops 6 points so you can make it under the amount.
But I don't think it actually makes your loan cheaper. Like I don't think you actually save any money. I think that it's still cheaper. They just changed how much of a discount you get for having a better credit score.
Right. Somebody said, Mr. Macy, thank you for your service. First time home buyer, how would you time buying and any other tips for the military market? Thanks.
All right. Great question. I love this question. I love this situation. I always found, at least in my market, we got the best deals in the off season. And so as a military member, if you're coming in like in the summer or like in the spring when the market's hot and all that other fun stuff, you're just naturally at a disadvantage to get a deal. I love after Thanksgiving to New Year's. And so if you can get into a monthly rental or something with flexible terms, I would just be in offer mode from after Thanksgiving to January 1st. And I would be looking at things that have been on the market for a while and that are overpriced. Been on the market for a while, overpriced, maybe a little ugly. Maybe you walk in there, it smells kind of funny. Whatever those things are that have stopped people from buying it. And then find you an agent that is willing to not have too much ego and write some low offers to see if you can steal a deal in the holiday season when sellers are like, man, I can't believe we didn't sell. I need to move. And buyers are, just say Thanksgiving and like, they're like, oh, I'm going to start January 1st.
Yeah, we always are busy after Mardi Gras. So that from that Thanksgiving to Mardi Gras time, it's like
get out there and make some offers.
Yeah, like I've done my fair share. Peter has a question that says, isn't this current market worse than a crash? There's been a crash in total transactions, which is how everyone in the industry makes money. Crash to me is that the average price of a home is below the number that it was in 2019. I don't know of one market across the United States that it's at the same levels of price that it was in 2019. Do you know of any? Even the ones that have been hit the hardest? Phoenix, Arizona, some areas in California, Austin, Texas. None of them are anywhere close to where the numbers they were in 2019. And just because they're not doing, if we're stagnant, right? We're not doing any, nobody's buying, nobody's selling. That isn't a crash. That means we're stagnant. It's not crashing. The prices haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening. It sucks for the real estate agents, sucks for the appraisers, but that's normal. Like if we have we've had stagnant markets before.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a side hustle. and then the agents that have been in it for a while say they enjoy the quiet times because it gets them to catch up on all the things that they like, their skills in internet marketing and like all their other things, like all the things they weren't able to do because it was so busy. Now they can catch up. They enjoy the quiet times. Those ones that have been in it for 20, 30 years, they know, they've seen markets go up and down a million times. So
I think on Peter's question though, is the current market worse than a crash? Like this is very interesting. I mean, as a buyer, like sure, you want the market to crash, you want a house to be more affordable so you can get in. The problem with a crash is that, there's a lot of home owners that get caught holding the bag and get in a really tough spot that negatively impacts them for a long period of time. So, like I would not love to see, but I mean, I think like a nice thing to see would be a continued stagnation, maybe a slight price decline. And then maybe the interest rates lower a little bit, make it a little easier for buyers to get into the market. But I don't think a crash is good.
I don't want to
think
see
a crash
people losing their
houses.
But 2008 was the worst to watch families lose their house. That was freaking awful. And there were some people that were in situations that was unavoidable. And like, like there were people like to point the fingers, like, oh, they should have never gotten that house. But they, you got to remember they were sold a bill of goods too. Like they were like, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. I know this seems high now, but you can refinance. You're going to gain so much. Like they were told all these things. That's why so many lenders were put in prison for predatory lending practice because they talked people into it. To watch families lose everything. Because in some cases, they were so scared they left all of their items still in the house. And these companies came in and just threw all their stuff in dumpsters. And I don't want to see that ever again in my life.
No,
that is terrible.
The other person he was talking about, isn't it bad for the industry? And it's like, I don't really care. Like a lot of real estate agents did really well with this great market over the last couple of years. Like if it pulls back a little bit, it pulls back. Kristina, how many people do we see get their real estate license and just magically start making money? Like I've seen a lot of those people leave. And so if it means a slower market gets the not as good agents out of the industry, like I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing about when real estate agents basically work for themselves. You can see whatever name or brokerage they have, but you still it's a business within yourself. Like you have to learn how to budget for your marketing, everything. And if if not selling a house 1 month is going to ruin your life, then you are a terrible business person.
Yeah.
And if everybody knows anything about real estate agents, the average real estate agent, I think, makes like $45,000 a year. I think that's what it is.
It's the top percentage game. And so if you're in the market, like, just make sure you're working with the top percentage. Make sure you're working with someone. The thing I do like about this is people will have more questions when they enter into the market. So if I was selling my house before, I was like, oh, Kristina, you can put a sign in the yard. Sure, you could be my agent. Now it's like, wait, what's going on in the market? Like, how should we do this? What should we do? And so I do believe that better agents will win. And if you're in the market, talk to a couple agents, work with someone who knows what they're talking about, because that'll help you out with so many of your problems.
I'm connected with thousands across the country.
Yes.
And if you want to know anybody, let me know. Just go to my website, KristinaSmallhorn.com. We have a question right here. It says, how do we get corporations out of the housing game? I talk about this a lot in my videos, and they're like, for instance, if you live in a manufactured home community, you can turn your community into a co-op, which is very similar to like a condo association.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. Everybody owns a piece of the land itself, and everybody has a vested interest in lot rents and everything else. So everybody would be voting on that, like almost like an HOA for your standard homes. That if a corporation was to come in, the residents should have the first right of refusal to allow that to happen. So they have the opportunity to purchase it as a co-op and before the investors come in. That's one way you can look at it. Anytime you have a community and it's an older community and you don't happen to have a restriction of how many rentals can be in your area, you can actually put that in your covenants. You have a meeting with everybody. You have to have a whole vote on it, and you add an addendum or amendment to your HOA that says that only like 10% or 15% of the houses can be sold to corporations using it for rentals. You can do that. There's many ways you can look at it, but the best thing you can do, and it seems like the simplest thing, but it's very difficult, is for people to go into some of these meetings when these corporations come in and say they want to build these build to rent communities. Always encourage your local counties to vote against it.
Yeah. We're starting to see more and more of those with the build to rent communities, which is tough.
Because they want to make us renters. They're trying to turn our younger generation into renters.
The people I do think get a bad rap are the local flippers, because I do think that, there is a product of home that isn't for the home buyer. Like, I've seen so many people buy the fixer upper and go underwater and have a tough time with it. And so, like, I think that everything has a need, and I just think sometimes you see people going outside of that need. And so, it's like, I'm sure there are instances where corporations maybe should buy houses, but the level that they're doing it right now is just way too high.
Gross.
And the other thing I'd love to see is landlords financing the house to their renters. I mean, this is like mostly, the mom and pop landlords, but converting some of their rentals to notes. I just think more people should own their home. I think that when you own your home, you've got more invested in the neighborhood. Like you said, having those neighborhood meetings and actually showing up. I feel like that's more, when you own your home, you're more likely to participate in that stuff. And so non-traditional ways to home ownership.
I'm so guilty of not showing up to those meetings. Well. I'm so guilty. I'm like, I don't want to hear about it,
Yeah.
And I don't want to hear it. The people complain about the stupidest stuff. But it's true though. You should participate. But I'm guilty of not showing up.
Yeah.
Melissa says, is there a way people can look online for foreclosures and bank-owned properties? Yes. So if you go into my description of this video right here, you can go to foreclosures.com and you can just register for their newsletter, right? Just register for their newsletter. So that way they can say, oh, what area do you live in? And you can say when you want to get it. Don't sign up. And this is a little secret. Don't use my affiliate link to start paying for it until you see a house that you actually want to bid on. Then go ahead and pay for it for that month. Once you close on the house, cancel it.
I like it.
I know. I'm getting paid for it, but I'm telling you how you get around it. So
Kristina, do you know how much inventory the banks are holding right now?
So they are nowhere near the numbers they were pre-pandemic.
Okay,
They
because I knew
still
back
are
then, yeah.
so low. They do not have the inventory that they had on their books years ago. But I'm going to tell you this. So if you look at and this is well known, the car market right now, they're seeing repo rates just go up. And so if you were looking at a car, I'm going to actually hold off buying a car. My lease is up. I'm holding off because I don't drive it enough to even make a big difference. And I'm waiting for one of these repos to come in, and I'm going to get myself a deal. This is an indication very, very similar to what happened to the previous crash, but it all happened at once. They saw the repos of cars and foreclosures happening at the very same time. This isn't the case this time. They're just not seeing enough because people got such a low interest rate. Their payments were so low. They're not going anywhere. They were expecting to see a big increase when everybody got that, when the forbearance. They were thought for sure we're going to see by this time a big wave of foreclosures that hit the market. Well, no, that didn't happen. They're still below the numbers they were prior to the pandemic as far as people getting into foreclosure. So they'll gladly give up their car, but they're not willing to give up their house. They're still paying that mortgage note.
Yeah, I mean, I know house prices have gone crazy, but cars, my goodness, they are
$50,000 for a regular car. Just a regular old car. $50,000?
Yeah.
Kristina says no.
No. Hard pass.
No, I don't drive enough to, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
$50,000 used to be a luxury car, and now it's just like your average Honda Civic.
Look, and we say used to be. I'm not saying used to be like 10 years ago. I'm saying used to be like, what, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah. I'm like, and now, like, when I was a kid, you were like, you never never finance a car for more than 4 years. And now, like, financing cars, I think it's 7 years. Like, you 7 years for a car, you have a, well, that's not a mortgage. What is it? You know what I'm talking about? You have a loan for 7 years on a car?
Yeah.
On a car. And you only have oh my God, it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, Thomas says, would you please explain manual underwriting for and no need for credit score, Churchill mortgage company? I will not explain that because I'm not a lender. I would be explaining it incorrectly.
Yeah. I mean, big picture is just like lenders use a lot of standard equations and credit scores and stuff to come up with a lot of the underwriting. And sometimes they don't apply to people. So they have people that will like go in and look at your personal situation. Right. But I would definitely, like Kristina said, talk to a lending professional, because Kristina and I, neither one of us are lenders.
What my rudimentary explanation is, they have this computer that goes through it and that gives it a bunch of flags, a bunch of flags. And then they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then somebody actually sits down and looks at it and says, all right, let's get over this one. Let's see if we can talk about this one. Let's see if we can, then a person is actually sitting there looking at it. That's my explanation of it. But other than that, please talk to a lender. PJ Garcia says, Kristina, big warm, heartwarm love for all of us. Love that she shares and teaches us. Love your new hairstyle. Appreciate Tim's down to earth fun participation on your channel. Tim, are you going to come back?
This has been the most fun I've had on one of these things in a while. Mostly because you got this awesome audience just dropping all these great contacts.
I have the best real estate YouTube audience on the planet. I mean, like, I'm so thankful to them. Even when I took a break from making video content, I made sure that I came to the live stream because I had so much fun on it. Yeah. I love my people. I love them. Falsificationism says, I recently saw a chart of Canadian home prices, and they're even more expensive than in the US. Why? Can things get even more unaffordable? So I know this prior. I actually even had somebody from Canada on my channel. I'm Brad McCallum. Brad. So they had a large increase of foreign investors that bought homes and held them as like stocks, basically, leaving them vacant, causing home prices to increase because the supply was so short. And so in some districts, some areas, they went ahead and started penalizing people for having vacant properties because they weren't using them for rentals or anything. They're just keeping them vacant. And they weren't even, in some cases, they weren't even taking care of them. They were just empty houses. So that's one of their biggest issues was an influx of foreign investors that had come in and bought a lot of homes, a lot.
I hate to keep going back to it, but just that simple supply and demand. Like Canada has very big supply problems with housing, and so prices keep going up.
Yep. Questions. What are fees a new home builder is paying on completed inventory that's accumulated days on the market? I don't understand the question. Do you understand that question?
No. I mean, so real quick though, on days on market, sometimes builders will put things on the market before they're completed. So you may have, what's that?
Absolutely. They do it all the time.
Yeah. So you may have a builder house. You're like, this thing's been on the market for 90 days, but they haven't finished it yet. And so sometimes they do accumulate high days on market just because they're not done yet.
And people want to move in like right away. They see a house and I only want to wait 45 days. You know, as soon as my loan's done, I want to move in. And they're like, oh, well, that one won't be done for another 3 months. And their lease is up in 2 months. They're like, we can't wait. And I'm not moving in with my mom. You can forget it. I'm not doing that. We moved out for a reason. How are you doing on time, Tim? Do you have to go?
I got Kate. What is that? The rental question? I'd love to hit that one. And then
hit it.
Maybe wrap up.
Okay.
The stagnant residential RE. Yeah,
here we are. Doc Ray says, how will the stagnant residential RE market affect residential rental market? We don't have that problem here, but do you have that in your area?
I mean, I think, look, everybody needs a place to live, right? None of this, none of the prices and all that stuff change the fact that people need a house to live in. And so I think what happens is I believe we've seen home prices and interest rates. And so the cost of owning a house increase faster than rentals. So rental rates have gone up as well, but I'm fairly certain if you look at, like I said, mortgage percentage of income compared to rent, I think mortgage as a percentage of income has gone up faster than rental. So rental demand I've seen be very strong. So rent demand in our market hasn't really diminished. And because of that, we are seeing, those rent values going up. And so I do think it's just cost of living is just getting higher and higher in general. So I haven't seen demand for rentals going down at all, especially in our market. And they are starting to go, and they're definitely starting to go up. I think you may see the rent increases kind of trail the property value increases. So I think you'll continue to see those go up.
I think the areas that you're going to see rental decreases are the areas that where the builders left the single family market and went into the multifamily market, which happened at the end of 2021 when they started going in. When those are complete and we start seeing those areas finally like open up, then you can see decreases in rents in those specific areas. But for the majority of areas that don't have a lot of new building, you're not going to see rental prices tank for quite some time. Rent is ridiculous. I mean, every time I'm addicted to TikTok and I love watching people, like what they do and everything. And one of the things that always kind of comes by my FYP is how much more their rental has gone up. And even in areas that have had a lot of new builds, still, $200, $300 up. And there's no cap in most areas. Like they can't say like they can raise it up 20, 30%. And there's nothing, there's no law saying that they can't.
Yeah.
So,
But again, in a state like Texas, the person that owns the house, since the property value's gone up so much, like their property taxes and their insurance is going up a bunch too, which I know always gets passed down to the renter. So it's definitely a mix of a lot of these different factors that are going on.
Rent is ridiculous, 100%. But do you know what isn't ridiculous? My website, KristinaSmallhorn.com. If you're looking for a real estate agent in your area, you can always reach out to me and fill out the referral form. All you do is click on any button on the website. Just one pink button takes you straight to any form that you can fill out. and I can help you find a real estate agent in your area. Super
That is
easy.
a good looking website, Kristina.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. It is so simple. I made it extremely easy. Anybody under the sun can figure it out. All you have to do is fill it out. But please, for all the love that's holy, fill out the contact phone number. If you do not leave a phone number, I cannot call you. I cannot call you. And one of my favorite things to do is talk, obviously.
Yeah.
So leave your contact number so I can give you a call. I will contact you within the week. You know, I'm more quick to the button than others, but I will get a hold of you and find you a real estate agent in your area. So fill that out. Let me know. And then
a good agent.
A good agent. Well,
Kristina's
I know.
got the best network of anybody I know.
Well, that's because I have the best audience. So I want to make sure I make them happy.
That's true.
Yeah. And if you're looking to listen to this on the, on your podcast, or whatever, I'm on all the podcast places too. But Tim has a YouTube channel. He doesn't promote that too much, but he's on the Instagrams. He loves himself some Instagrams. So just find Tim Macy on the Instagrams, right?
And I'll probably be doing more travel stuff this year on YouTube. If you like the family travel stuff, we'll be doing more of that.
And if you're a realtor, Tim Macy's on all the conference,
Oh my God,
dockets.
I'm doing a whole tour in May. So follow me on Instagram because I'm doing a bunch of different real estate.
He gets up there and talks to real estate agents and gives them all the inside tips. They don't ask me, they ask Tim. Nobody calls me because they know I'm mouthy.
That's hilarious.
I say potty words and they're like, nope, don't have her on.
We love potty words. Yeah.
What?
I said we love potty words on.
I know. I dropped one today. That's the first time I've done in months.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is my podcast. So you can this episode that we have right here, Tim, you can go ahead and you can listen to it, or you can share it on your social medias.
I love it.
Yay.
I love it. Yay.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. There was over 333 people I saw. That was the highest I saw today. 333 people that were watching us live today. I want to say thank you to every single one of you. I also want to say a special thank you to the moderators for keeping the chat clean. And I also want to say thank you to our super chatters today. It's always nice to have.
Yeah, shout out to the super chatters. You guys are awesome.
I know, man. I love them. They're so great. They really
Johnny
do help. They really do. That's always really nice. Nice to support. So thank you, Tim. I hope everybody has a great weekend. If there's anything that you want to discuss next weekend, just make sure when this video is done, put it in the comments section below, and I'll see if I can get somebody on here to talk about it, talk about it together. Tim, I hope you come out here again. This was
I'm tuning in next week.
You're going to be here next week?
No, I mean, I'll tune in. I'm watching next week.
You're going to watch next week.
Yeah.
Observer.